Oh my God, when I set this camera up, I didn't realize how much the snow was gonna be blinding me, dude. I literally can't see outside. The sun is out and it's reflecting right off the snow. I literally can't see anything. Well, I feel like you guys know more than the average person. I really like my middleweight motorcycles. 1000cc motorcycles are all the rage these days, but I have never been less interested in them. They are giant, expensive pieces of crap that just hurt people and have hurt people that I know and have hurt me. I don't wanna make this video super whiny though, because motorcycles are a passion of mine. They make me excited. But I would be lying to you guys if I didn't get more excited these days about a brand new middleweight than I did about a brand new 1000cc motorcycle. Last year, if you guys remember, I bought a 2025 Yamaha R9. I was super excited for that bike, especially because it was a competitor to my Yamaha R6. But as you guys know, I ended up selling that bike because it didn't quite meet my expectations. And I ended up replacing it with this bike, my Triumph Daytona 765, that is also a triple cylinder, just like the R9. But while the R9 only makes about 110 to 115 horsepower, this bike makes 130 horsepower. Much better than my Yamaha R9. So today, I'm very excited to announce that today I'm gonna be checking out another middleweight sport bike that doesn't make 115 horsepower. It doesn't make 120 horsepower. This new middleweight that I'm checking out today makes 130 horsepower. And I'm pretty excited because this might be the secret new middleweight that I've been looking for. Why am I looking at another motorcycle while it's 17 degrees outside? I don't know. I haven't even put a single mile on the rocket yet. You know, don't blame me. Blame Mother Nature. This is Mother Nature's fault. Only about 7 minutes away from our destination today. I feel the need to clarify a little bit. Some of you guys were cracking jokes last time when I was revealing the Rocket 3. I bought a Rocket 3, like it's crazy. You know, why is a dude who has historically preached about like, oh, 1000cc bikes too much, like they're kind of useless most of the time, which is true. I am a product of where I live. Where I live, leader bikes are pretty useless unless you're sticking to highways, which even then, you're breaking laws, like let's be real. The Rocket 3, even though it's a 2500cc motorcycle, it is less insane than something like the H2. Like bigger CC, like a Harley Davidson that's like a something cubic, they use like cubic inches or something. Like even though the equivalent would be like a 1500cc, something like that. I could be wrong. Like a Harley engine is massive, but they're still slow. And yes, the Rocket 3 still makes 180 horsepower like a leader bike does, like an R1 makes the same amount of horsepower. It weighs 750 pounds. It is slower, off the line it might be able to hold its own, but like top speed wise, it's not gonna hold a candle to a leader bike. It's geared lower, it revs lower, it is much less serious of a bike. Still very fast and very serious, but like, I understand the majority of the comments probably understand that like a leader bike is going to be faster than a giant 750 pound cruiser. I get that you guys probably know. I felt the need to clarify, and because it relates to today. The bike we were looking at today, everybody is blowing up on social media thinking it's like, oh, it's almost a 1000cc bike making only 130 horsepower. What the heck, man? The bike we are looking at today is 990 cc's. It sounds like a lot, but this is by all definitions a middleweight motorcycle. And you guys are gonna see why today. Well, here we are, boys. Polaris and KTM of Medina. So right now they're still prepping the bike in the back, so I can't even see the bike that I'm here to see right now. So I was just kind of waltzing around the showroom. That's a friend right there. They have this is a KTM RC390. I don't know if you guys remember, but I actually had one of these on track way back last year in the spring. I actually like these bikes a lot. I thought like as an introduction to like my first track day, it was awesome. It was a great bike to have. They're just super lightweight and they have a decent braking system considering how little these cost. And they do actually have a screen on them as well, which is very unlike a lot of beginner bikes. Certainly worse options out there. But before we even hop back to the sport bike that's being prepped in the back right now, the screen on this thing is massive, dude. Look, that's like an iPad. That is bigger than the screen on my V4, which is insane. Am I allowed to film back here? I don't want to assume. Holy cow, dude. That is sweet. That is so awesome, dude. That is the first time seeing one of these in person. That looks so awesome. It looks way better in person. I already liked it online. Oh, there's a little pop. I heard that. Okay. Well, boys, initial impressions. Interesting. I was a little bit worried when I saw photos online that I thought the side would look a little bit more bulbous, but in person, I'm not gonna lie, it hides the line very well. I think it actually looks a lot better in person than I thought, which is very funny. I would have thought this bike, because like in photos, this bike, it's mainly this part to me that looks beautiful. I love this like little daylight running light right here, and then the way the headlight like cuts out right there. It reminds me a lot of my R6 back at home, which I can throw up a photo right here. Like the way the front cuts in a little bit. And the winglets are actually, I'm usually not a fan of winglets, historically. I've said I don't like winglets on motorcycles, but on this bike, I low-key think it kind of works. And bro's just rotating it around. I think the front end is like the best part of this bike. I think it's actually like one of the best designed motorcycles this year, or in the past like 5 years. Sheesh. And also, so a couple other weird design elements. It also has this like, this frame slider puck thrown onto the side here. I'm gonna have to dive into this thing. There's so many weird quirks and features about this bike too, because look at this screen, dude. The size, that is massive compared to the V4. And I thought the V4s was big. This is KTM's new 990 RCR. Brand new for 2026, KTM is finally re-entering the sport bike market. If you guys didn't know, KTM used to make a lot of really cool sport bikes that people didn't really buy a lot of. And so for a little bit, KTM stopped making sport bikes, which only made things worse, and then they ended up going bankrupt, which that's what happens if you stop making cool bikes. Fortunately for everybody in the sport bike market, KTM is once again making sport bikes again. And this is what they created. This is a cold start on a 2026 KTM 990 RCR. Not horrible. It's a little bit quiet for my taste personally. I usually like to have a full exhaust on there that blows out your ears. So the 990 is a parallel twin motorcycle, which is why when I turned it on, you guys heard it go a little bit more thumpy. It is not an inline four like my Yamaha R6, which is traditionally what most people think of whenever they think of a sport bike. The advantage is it's gonna make a little bit more torque, it's gonna be a little bit more fun to ride around on the street, but that also means it's gonna lose a little bit of that top end fun, and it's not gonna sound as pleasant. But it doesn't sound horrible. It just means it's a little bit different. It's not as cool as the coolest kid on the block, but it still makes a decent sound. So the good thing about the KTM is it's making 128 horsepower and 76 foot-pounds of torque, which is close to a liter bike. I mean, you're thinking of like a Yamaha R1, I think makes 83 foot-pounds of torque. That's pretty decent. For a middleweight sport bike, I think it is good to have it make closer to liter bike torque while not making the insane horsepower that's gonna get you into trouble. The torque is what's fun. The horsepower is just, it's exhilarating. It can be fun. I'm not gonna say it, I'm not gonna deny it. But if you're trying to avoid like a speeding ticket, which is probably something I should be looking into doing, I think the 130 I'm gonna take the 130 horsepower and keep the torque if I can, ideally. Let's do a little key reveal. This is what the key to the 990 looks like. It has a piece of tape on it. I gotta remove it somehow. Come on, here we go. Oh, revealing the KTM logo, slowly, surely. Is it upside down? It's upside down, sorry. This is what the key looks like to a KTM 990. So if you guys were wondering if I bought this bike, I did not. As I said earlier in the video, I just happen to know the person that bought this. They placed their order much earlier than I could have, and they got theirs a lot sooner than I did. So I did not purchase this. I just told them if I dropped it, I'd pay for it. So I feel like that's fair. But anyway, some weird quirks and features about this bike. First of all, the gigantic screen on this thing is, it's undeniably massive. I have never seen a motorcycle with a bigger screen on these things, and it is kind of intimidating to get into. And this is coming from someone who's owned like an S1000RR. I've had a BMW. I currently own a Ducati V4, and none of those screens even come close to swinging at this one. I don't know if having a bigger screen on a motorcycle is necessarily a good thing, because you could make an argument that it's distracting. You don't want to have that. But to me, if you're paying big boy money, I want big boy stuff, and that is the bigger the better. Another really strange thing about this motorcycle is the gas tank opens backwards. So that is something I found out about this bike very early on. That is kind of weird and awkward. I don't know why KTM's got to be different. This bike also has the same motorcycle brakes that my V4 has, just colored differently. Another thing that's low-key a downer is it comes with a steel frame as opposed to an aluminum. I believe that this uses the same frame that the naked bike version of this bike uses, which is in contrast to the Yamaha R9 that uses a completely different frame from the MT-09. I don't think that there's much of a difference between the naked bike version of this and the sport bike version other than ergonomic and suspension. I think even the suspension is the same. There is much of a less difference between the naked bike version and the sport bike version when compared to the R9 and the MT-09. Another really cool thing is this bike comes with a steering stabilizer, which the R9 did not come with. However, this bike does start $2,000 more than an R9. So you have to judge it based on that. However, if you're gonna spend big boy money on a motorcycle, I think I would much prefer to have a lot of these extra things. We're talking 20 extra horsepower over the R9, has better brakes, and I'm not gonna lie to you, a lot more high quality things. Like this seat is much more comfortable for me to touch. And correct me if I'm wrong, and Jacob in post editing, this bike comes with a 4-year unlimited mile warranty. Oh, well, hey, future Jacob here. So the way I got confused about this is this on KTM's website under the 990 is this 4-year warranty, premium manufacturer's warranty. This is actually valid for the KTM 990 because it has the LC8 motor in it, which was famously very unreliable for KTM. However, if you read the fine print on KTM's warranty website, KTM offers a 2-year blanket warranty, and the extra 2 years to make it the full 4 years only applies to the people that get all of their services done at a official KTM dealership. Now, historically, I am not someone who likes to take their motorcycles to the dealership for everything. That's just too inconvenient for me. I ride way too much. I depend on my motorcycles way too much to have to wait for dealer services time. It also costs a lot of extra money, and I ride a lot of different motorcycles. It would add an exorbitant amount of money to my cost if I took my motorcycle to the dealership for everything. So Is this worth it for someone like you or me? I don't know. Yes, it's awesome that you get a full 4-year warranty if you are someone who takes it to the dealer often, but if you're not someone who likes to take your bikes to the dealership all the time, you don't get this. You only get the 2-year warranty. So it's a little bit misleading, but we're gonna have to think about that one. I would personally be a little bit concerned about the reliability of KTM, considering that they just went bankrupt while producing these motorcycles. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some corners cut in the production line. Oh, wow, it's not something you usually see. There's a spot where you can just pull this out here. That is coolant. That is a coolant dipstick. Where you can check your coolant for whatever reason, if you want to check your coolant, I guess. I have never seen that in any motorcycle ever. I've never seen a coolant dipstick on a motorcycle. That's so bizarre. This might be an aluminum gas tank, by the way. Hold up. Oh my God, it's an aluminum gas tank. No, that's aluminum. You can tell, okay, the way you can tell if your bike has an aluminum gas tank, take your phone, if it has the magnet on the back, hold it up. If it sticks to it, it's a steel gas tank, which means it's cheaper, it's easier for the manufacturer to make. This has, I believe, an aluminum gas tank. That is awesome. It helps with center of gravity. It keeps the weight lower on the bike, which is what you want. You know, having a steel gas tank, like the R9 had a steel gas tank. That was Yamaha cutting corners. Even though the R6 has an aluminum gas tank, Yamaha cut corners on the R9 to keep costs down because it's cheaper. This has an aluminum gas tank. That's awesome. That shows me that KTM really cares. That's dope. They could have cheaped out on that. No one would care. No one would notice, but that's really awesome. God, these things are really awkward to sit on. Seating position is oddly comfortable. I'm oddly getting a lot of naked bike vibes from this. I could like comfortably sit on this all day. It's got cruise control. This could be the perfect everyday man's bike. I don't know. My Daytona does not have cruise control, so that is unique to this bike. I'm really starting to warm up to this thing. The wings are a little bit flimsy though. I don't know how to feel, but they look cool. At least there's that. Obviously, boys cannot ride the bike today. There's a lot of snow out here. These bikes are just barely starting to make deliveries in the States. I think there's a few people down in like Florida and stuff who've gotten theirs already. It's gonna be a while till the boys up in the Midwest gets our bikes. Man, this is like one of the coolest bikes that have come out in a while though. I can't even lie, dude. It is such a sweet looking bike. Like, how many bikes that come out these days are ugly as sin? You guys can't disagree with me on this one, please. This is like actually a good looking motorcycle for once. Christian found the keyhole for the rear seat. It's like way back there, dude. Like, anyone's gonna find that. Right? That is the weirdest spot for a rear seat I've ever seen in my life. I could probably throw a protein bar or something in there. I can at least fist it for the most part. So like, how much is it to order one of these? I'm just curious.
So today we'd put 500 down and get you the next one.
And that's a wrap. I'm not saying I ordered one. I'm not saying I'm getting one for myself. I'm just like, I'm entertaining the idea. It's for content purposes, you know? I'm out here and filming videos and I'm like, you know, there's a new bike that comes out, it's a new interesting sport bike that's low-key comfortable, has enough power and more power than what I'm, you know, usually disappointed by. I think this is right up my alley. I think this is perfect. Some bikes may need to get sold. Some things may need to shift around a little bit. Maybe we gotta make some room in the garage. I mean, we're running out of space in the garage, especially once the Rocket. Dude, we still gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with the Rocket. I have a hulking 750-pound motorcycle I have to figure out what I'm doing with. It's not good. It's not good. You know what just occurred to me, what I just thought about? Isn't KTM the one that was doing the really annoying stuff that like you buy a motorcycle and half the electronics don't work unless you pay another $1,000? Wow, okay, that person can pull out in front of me. I'm paying attention to my driving, I promise. I don't know if they would do that on the sport bike because wouldn't it be weird if you, like, just because I didn't pay another $1,000 or whatever it is, I wouldn't get all the features? They won't do that, right? But then I'm saying this and a corporation that borderline almost went bankrupt was the people in charge of making this motorcycle. Now I'm slightly getting concerned that I'm going to ride this motorcycle, potentially take this motorcycle on a road trip, get to my location, and half of the functions won't work because I didn't pay enough money. That's concerning, to say the most part. They did not disclose any of this to me, by the way, so if I do find out that half the features don't work and I get to a place in like South Carolina or something, I'm miles away from home and half the features don't work, there might be a problem, KTM. We might have an issue. If I order one of these bikes without that disclosure, I'm gonna be a little frustrated, I'm not gonna lie. But whatever, figure it out. I know I look at a lot of new motorcycles and I go through a lot of bikes. It's like this never-ending quest of looking for like the perfect bike, if that makes sense. The R9 just had too many flaws. Like it was heavy, it was a little bit slower than what you would expect from like a middleweight motorcycle. Like the R9 is more like an R7, if that makes sense. Like it's more beginner bike adjacent, even though it's too much power for even a beginner. That's why that bike didn't make any sense. That's why I sold it. And that's why I ended up getting the 765 because it made more sense as a middleweight. But the 765 is missing like the daily ability stuff. It's a little bit more aggressive. It's like the R6 like that, where it's a kind of an aggressive sport bike, doesn't have any cruise control, doesn't have any features, is very bare bones electronics, borderline where the electronics don't really work too well. The 765 is a great bike, don't get me wrong, I love that bike a lot, but it's not a true modern middleweight because you also can't buy that bike brand new anymore. You can buy the naked bike variant, but you can't get the sport bike version, which a lot of people like sport bikes, including myself. Anyway, first of all, Chipotle, I'm hungry, let's go eat. One of the comments I was getting on the Rocket 3 video where I revealed that I bought that bike, even though I bought that bike like 3 months ago, people were like, why does he buy these motorcycles when he lives in Ohio where it snows and it's crappy half the year? Why don't you just move from Ohio and go someplace where it's warm? I think there's just a gross misunderstanding of like people, maybe you guys don't have the same attachment to your hometown like I do. Like my friends are here, my girlfriend's here, my family is here. Like I can't just like up and move. Like my roots are here. And so unfortunately, like I don't have roots somewhere where it's warmer, where I can just instantly go and ride motorcycles all year round. Like unfortunately I have to spend my time here. That doesn't mean I can't take trips, which I could definitely do. We could look into that again. It's not a problem, it just costs a lot of money. So do these bikes. I really do love the trips though. I don't mind traveling one bit. But I want people to understand, like I'm here for, it's kind of like Brian 636 stays in Chicago. I stay here in Ohio because it's where I'm born and raised. It's where I have all my roots. It's not as easy as just picking up and moving. So a couple of days ago, Yami Noob, who's a popular motorcycle YouTuber here on YouTube, he made a video dunking on, well, not mainly me, but like a lot of the video was me. Whatever, you're gonna have that, that's fine. Whatever, I don't even care. If someone wants to dunk on me, that is their God-given American right, they're welcome to. But when someone dunks on the area where I live in, the Midwest, which Ohio is considered Midwest, by the way, fun fact.
Turns out it's actually really easy to ride a leader bike if you live in the Midwest where there's not a single twisty road in your entire state.
And when someone dunks on the place that I live in, I don't think that's a very good way of doing business. Because not only are you offending me, you're offending everybody I live around, everybody I live with. I learned a very long time ago that talking crap about places that people live is not a very good way to run business when your business is social media and socials in the name. His point was like, oh, the Midwest is flat and doesn't have any twisties, and so people from the Midwest don't know how to ride, which is rich coming from a dude living in Texas, bro. Texas. I'm not even dunking on Texas. I've just been to Texas. There's a lot of straight lines there. Maybe I haven't done a good enough job of making this a point in my videos, but I live next to a national park. There are a plethora of twisties in where I live. I just don't usually post that kind of stuff because I think it's boring. I've posted like canyon rides and stuff before. No one watches it. No one cares. I personally do like to, whenever I do a video with talking to myself, I do ride on those roads. I have plenty of videos out there, but like it's never the main topic of the video. It was just bothering me. It was irking me. I was like, it's been on my mind for a while. I just want to get that out there. I'm just like, I don't like it when someone dunks on the place that I live in. This is like, this is a shared space, bro. I live in this area with people that I care about, and like it's just annoying when someone dunks on it. It makes people feel bad for living in an area that a lot of people don't choose where they're born in, bro. Like we're all born and sharing this space together. That didn't sit right with me. We gotta make some room in here. Just the idea of owning 8 motorcycles, first of all, it doesn't even sound appealing. Because let's say I did live in an area where it was warm 7 days a week, I still wouldn't be able to ride every single bike if I took a different bike every single day. Owning more motorcycles than days in the week. I mean, certainly living the dream, but on a reasonable, even like on a YouTuber, like insane level, like I don't even think it makes sense. The family is growing quite a bit and faster than I can even comprehend. So things are about to get complicated on this page, but what can you expect? Living the dream, ladies and gentlemen. So I will talk to you guys in the next one. Sorry, this one was a little bit chaotic, but in winter, what else can you expect? So I'll be talking to you guys very soon. Maybe a little road trip next time. Who knows? I'll see you guys. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Forgot to do that part. Bye.